Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Today I am so honored to bring my friend and guest Laura Lazechko on to the podcast today. Laura and I have been friends for, I think, more than 14 years. We met actually before I met my husband Micah at the YMCA, and she was working out there at the same time. It was kind of a fun part of our story that she was dating her husband Tad while I was dating Micah, and I think we even went on a couple dates. I'm so excited to introduce her and her story to you. Laura is a licensed massage therapist. She's been married to her husband Tad for 12 years. She has 4 children, 10, 8, 6, and 4, 3 girls and a boy. Laura grew up in Nebraska and is now a resident of Colorado with many experiences around the world. And she is here with us today to talk about specifically her daughter, Lanie, and her special needs and their journey together. Welcome, Laura. I'm so glad to have you.
Thanks, Rachael.
Absolutely. Do you love that? That was like your first lead-in bio. Do you feel like you're having your news read on a show?
I feel so fancy.
You are so fancy. I love that. Okay, so Laura, tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay. As Rachael mentioned, Tad and I got married 12 years ago, and we sold everything we owned right after we got married and moved to Hawaii for a couple of years, and that was a super fun place to leave and cleave. But we moved back to the mainland when we were ready to start a family. And our first 2 kids came along fairly seamlessly, as did our third, actually. But a few months into her life, I noticed that it wasn't the same. It was different than my other kids. And I really just wanted to brush it off that God gave me an easy one because I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and a newborn. But as the weeks ticked by, just that niggling mom gut feeling was something I couldn't ignore anymore. So we pursued an appointment at neurology with Children's Hospital, and he agreed that something was not quite right with this child, but he wasn't sure what. So he ordered some blood work drawn to look for genetic conditions and an MRI to scan her brain. So that appointment came a few weeks later. None of these things happen quickly, so you spend a lot of time sitting in a tough headspace while you wait for answers. But a few weeks later, when we went back for both of those appointments, we got some unfortunate results. They blindsided us for sure. The genetic piece relayed a diagnosis that didn't even have a syndromic name. It's not common enough to have a fancy name. It's called simply by its chromosomal mutation. So it's called 8p inversion, duplication, and deletion. Okay. The geneticist walked into the room with it written on a sticky note because she had never heard of it before and had never seen another child with it. And she kind of shrugged and said, I don't really know what to tell you. I think you should prepare for a lifetime of full-time care for Lanie. She probably will never walk or talk, but you guys caught it early. You have a loving, supportive family. She has older siblings to model what typical development should look like, and you'll start therapies right away. So I'm not going to tell you where her ceiling is. Good luck.
Wow.
So that was hard to hear. The brain MRI also showed that a part of her brain is missing. The bundle of nerve fibers that connects the left and right hemispheres never developed and won't. If it doesn't develop in utero, it doesn't happen. But that's written into the coding on her 8th chromosome. So it's a condition called agenesis of the corpus callosum. And that was part of her diagnosis as well. So we left the hospital that day sort of reeling.
And she was how old at this point when you got the results?
She was 6 months.
Okay.
Yep, 6 months. So still very much a baby. And honestly, she was a great newborn. She nursed and she slept, which is all you need babies when they're little to do. But it did feel like the proverbial rug was ripped out from under us. A lot of those words at that point were so big. My ears heard them, but my brain really was not breaking them down or thinking about them too much. It was basically a dump of collected information that, then had to be kind of processed through over the upcoming weeks and months, where life continued. The newborn and the 1-year-old and 3-year-old did not cease to need me constantly.
To need you.
And so it would be so challenging to have a thought that needed to be wrapped up, and yet someone interrupted me because they needed something. So my brain just felt like it was
time
a
to process.
frazzled mess. Yeah. so many strings going off that didn't have resolution. So the grief strung out for a long time, that initial, like, very raw grief. But we kept moving forward with life. It's not like it stops. But we did get her into therapies right away, lots of early intervention, people that come right to your home, which is great. Nobody had to have pants on to pull these things off. And we sort of rolled into this whole new journey that we never could have anticipated or dreamed of. Honestly, nobody dreams of having a child with special needs. But it was thrust upon us, so we made the best of it. And Lanie did not progress a lot with therapies. We put the time and the effort in, and we still do, but there was not leaps and bounds of growth. And so some of the things that the geneticist said to us early on that I wanted to say, like, well, you probably don't know. This won't be how our life looks. Over the years of very regular and intensive therapy, became more realistic that we probably were looking at a life with a significantly disabled child for all of her life. That changed things in the realm that Tad and I both were very active physically. We loved to do sort of extreme sports and go camping and skiing and all of these things that felt like, as this new reality settled into my heart, like a child with a handful of balloons, I just had to let go of all of those dreams and hopes that I had for how my family would look going forward. And they, I had to let them go with my hand and watch them float up to the sky and grieve those things, one at a time, as I came to realize individual things that probably were not going to be what our family would look like as a whole group. Obviously, we can do things with our able-bodied typical children, but the whole idea of...
dig in a little bit on that with
Sure.
you? So for me and for other families with children with special needs, and for people who don't have any experience with this, what are some of those balloons that you had to let go and grieve? That life wasn't going to look like, or how the future was going to be different? What did you have to release?
Yeah. A lot of them revolve around our physical bodies working. Tad and I love to tent camp in, primitive areas without electricity, and changing a diaper of a bigger child or young adult without the ability to wash your hands becomes tricky.
Yeah. So practical.
Yeah, like running a Tough Mudder as a family. That probably sounds silly, but Tad and I always talked about
guys.
We would have loved to do stuff like that. Travels, we both like to travel. Some of those things have been able to come back into our lives, which has been such a gift. Skiing is one of them. Ted and I both love to ski and snowboard, and we have taught our typical kids how to as well. And there's wonderful adaptive ski programs at most of the big resorts now, where they have a trained instructor that will take a person with differing physical needs and still give them the ability to ski. So last year we were going to do this for the first time, but COVID closed everything down in March. So this March we're really hoping to make it up there and ski all as a family, all 6 of us. Lanie will be in a sit ski with her own instructor with her so that we can help the other kids. So I have learned that while grieving those dreams that go up is important, sometimes it gets returned back to me, and that's always so sweet to have happen when one of those really special things I have to let go of to see it come back around.
Yeah, that's a powerful truth right there. Sometimes we have to let go of things in order to see them returned in a new way, with a new form and a new light and a new hope attached to them.
And an appreciation. I realized through this how incredibly entitled I was until things were stripped away And then I had to wrestle with God about, but I deserved that. Then when it comes back around, it's true gratefulness because you don't feel entitled to it anymore.
Talk to me more about that entitlement. What did that mean for you in your life? And what did Lanie's presence teach you?
Yeah. It was very much of an unknown part of me. I had to greet it head on. When I was a child, my father passed away. He had a brain tumor that took him when I was 13. So having Lanie was certainly not the first hard thing that I had endured.
Right.
But I realized after Lanie's diagnosis that I had an unspoken expectation that I had already done my hard time, that I deserved a normal life from here on out.
You'd paid your dues.
Yep. And so that releasing of normal was more than, I think, the average parent who is on the same journey as us, because I really did think, okay, God, like I'm tested and tried. I've been through my Job time.
Yes.
Please let me live a normal life.
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Like, how much suffering is enough? Or can I look for hope instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop for something else?
Yeah. But obviously that's not a guarantee in any sense. And if I have eyes to see, which I don't always, sometimes I'm so clouded with grief and heaviness and all of the needs. So I don't always have eyes to see this, but when I do, I am able to embrace the other parts of my life with such an intense level of gratitude and appreciation. We ended up having a fourth child after Lanie, and watching her develop typically with the eyes that I now had, it's just been such a gift. My first two children, I didn't pay attention to when they rolled over for the first time or said mama or all of these things. You just expect it.
Take it for granted.
Yes.
And I think we all do that before a level of loss because we don't know any better.
Right.
It's not that we have some kind of dark or evil, or like I look back at things that I took for granted with Micah that he did for me. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I took that for granted. But we all do.
Yes.
Until we lose it.
Right.
So let's talk about that for a second. You have 3 children under 5, like 5 and under at that point. Like what would that have been?
Miles turned 6.
Tatum was born.
2 weeks before Tatum was born. Yeah.
Okay. So 6, 4, 2, and a newborn. Tell me the process in your heart that gave you courage to keep moving forward with the number of children you'd originally planned. And am I hearing that correctly, that you guys had always wanted 4 kids?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I grew up with 5 in my family, and Tad grew up with 3. So 4 was always our compromise and the family that we wanted. After Lanie came, there was so many unknowns and questions and things that were not going to be resolved or answered anytime soon. And so after she turned 1, the last 3 times I was ready to get pregnant again and move on to the next chapter. But after she turned 1, we just went back and forth of what is the wisest thing to do here. We have so many unknowns with Lanie. Is it wise to bring another child into our family, not knowing so much? But Tad essentially said, I'll leave it up to you. You do most of the work in the home. And so if you feel like you can handle it, I'm all right with it. And as I wrestled through it, I just came to the realization that if we stop now, it will be a decision based out of fear. And I will get to the end of my mothering journey and look back with regret that I stopped because of something unknown. And so we did get pregnant again, and that carried a bit of anxiety. There's no reason to think that the condition should pass again. It was genetic, but it was not inherited. It was a spontaneous mutation upon conception.
Okay.
So it really had nothing to do with Tad or
Interesting.
my genetics, just a random happenstance. So no reason to think that another baby would also struggle. But obviously the thought is in your mind of what if. Know. But we decided to anyways. And the first year of having, 2 babies was very hard. But within the first year, Tatum surpassed Lanie ability-wise. And as soon as she was, able to walk, then it wasn't quite so cumbersome to go places where I had to carry 2 people in. And feed herself and talk and all the things kind of that happen around that first birthday. it made it a bit easier. But it was certainly like having twins for that first year. But I'm so glad we did. She really has redeemed so much of Lanie's infancy and childhood, pieces that I felt were, sort of robbed from both of us, because I was able to see a typically developing child and be so thankful for her while still feeling sorrow for Lanie.
I love that. The both and.
Yeah.
That we can hold tremendous joy and great sorrow in our hearts and our hands at the same time, and that one doesn't cancel out the other, and you don't have to pick.
Right.
And I think just being in your life and watching all of you do life with Lanie, there's so much of that in her where it's hard, and there's tremendous amounts of therapies, and, everything has to be adjusted because of that. And then she has the most beautiful smile and these big bouncy curls, and she looks at you with the most innocent and authentic smile you'd ever see.
Yes.
Like, she is so fully present with you in a way that typical people usually aren't, because of their awareness of their circumstances and everything that's on their mind. And she is just this little funnel of love and sweetness. And that in and of itself is this gift, that we are so used to doing and being on the go and being busy in our culture that sometimes we forget to take advantage of those small moments. And I think Lanie really offers us an invitation to sit and to be, and just to appreciate how she reflects the image of God in a way that is so unusual and so delightful at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. One of the biggest spiritual truths I feel like I have become aware of through having a child like this is the idea of grace and unconditional love. And I grew up in the church, and I've been a Christian my whole life, and so I have understood in theory the concept that God loves us unconditionally, and his grace is not based on our merit or our performance. But having a child that can literally do nothing for herself, let alone for anyone else, and yet the intensity with which I love her and dance over her, it has made me understand all the more how God looks upon us, and that it's not what we do or don't do that makes him love us. It's just who we are. It's just because we are. And it's really the same with Lanie.
That is so powerful and so beautiful. I just love what you said, when I have eyes to see, and the gratitude that the Lord is able to funnel into your heart when you have, that perspective, that long-term perspective. And it sounds like it has improved the intimacy in your relationship with the Lord to be able to practically see how unconditionally he loves you.
Yeah.
And I wonder, would you go backwards with me a little bit with the doing versus being and how the Lord loves us? So Laura is an Enneagram 1, and she and I have lots of great Enneagram conversations while she gives me fabulous massages. And Laura and I are both in the body or the gut triad. And our classic, it's a strength and a weakness, just like everything, but we are so great at doing and not great at being. It's much more comfortable to have a plan of action and to take it on. And I can only imagine with Lanie, having the special needs, needing therapy, so much research to do, tremendous physical care that really hasn't relented. There's all kinds of doing to be done. Okay. And then Tad is in the heart triad. And so the people in the heart triad, they feel out loud. Their feelings are the first thing that comes to them, and they usually have a pretty articulate emotional language. So what was that like? I'm imagining that scene, and the doctor just literally comes in with a sticky note and an I don't know, but it's probably bad, right? That just sounds like doom. I mean, it sounds like dread when the medical professional doesn't even really have a path for how you might take next steps. How did you guys process that? You in the gut and him in the heart. And how did that affect your relationship?
It has been very difficult. It has been hard to respect one another's grief and the process that we have gone through as individuals. It has also been hard to balance well the needs I have been a stay-at-home mom with a little side job of massage since we started a family. And so we rolled in this third child to our lives, not knowing the amount of things that she would need. And I struggled to feel resentful towards Tad, who still left our home every day to work and provide for us while
Bathroom
I was
breaks, adult conversation. Yes.
While I was left not just raising the children that I wanted to, not just being with our kids, which I wanted to do, but somehow having to be so many different places at the same time and entertaining people in the children's hospital waiting room and all of these other things. And for the first several years, I did not do a very good job of saying, I can't juggle all of this. I need you to be home or to take Lanie to these appointments. I can't do all of this stuff at the same time anymore. And while my resentment sort of grew towards Tad for feeling like he was so out of touch with the needs of his family, his guilt grew because he was very aware that he was out of touch with the needs of his family, but still needed to provide. And so we both were in this space of, we can't really do what we're doing right now and continue on like this if we want to have these seeds of bitterness and guilt as just a normal part of our marriage. Neither one of us wanted that to be the dynamic. So we have gotten better over the years of me saying, Lanie has therapy at 8:00. I need you to take the other kids to school so that I can be home. And he has gotten better at standing up to his boss and saying, I'm not going to be to work until later today. I have to do these things. And so we both have grown into that, as well as just worked on communicating better and respecting the different grief processes. As the doer, I would quickly think about, this is going to get really challenging when she starts her period. Or if for some freak accident I died tomorrow, could he handle it? Or would he put her in a home? Or, all of these like really kind of terrible, deep thoughts. And then when I would bring it up to him, he would say, I've never even thought of that, which
made you feel alone.
Yep. And again, like sort of fed that resentment. So I have learned to speak more of those hard, heavy thoughts rather than just let them sit inside of me, so that he's my partner, so that we are partners on this journey. And even though he may not come up with those thoughts on his own, he can still hear me in them and support me in them, and even offer a different perspective of someone who's wired so differently than me to say, but the reality of that happening is not great. So it is good to have a plan, but we don't need to dwell on what could happen.
So I hear you saying you needed him to step up in the doing part to support your being, right? To support the emotions that you're feeling, the overwhelm, the tremendous physical strain that it is to care for 3 little people that age, regardless. Like 3 typical kids that age is a huge strain on a family, let alone adding all the doctor's appointments and the therapies. What has it looked like for you to come around to Tad where he needs to be? He needs to be messy. 4s they like to sit in their feelings. Has he taken space for that? And what does that look like for you to walk that out with him?
Well, I think that he is a big feeler, but if something is not right in front of him, the forethought piece isn't necessarily there. And so other than, like some of the surgeries or some of the harder appointments or situations in our life where a circumstance is right in front of him that makes him feel big feelings, he doesn't feel them anticipatorily. Does that make sense?
He doesn't get ahead of himself into the feeling pit. Okay.
Yes. He stays fairly in that moment. And especially in the beginning when I was not great at asking for help, I was doing a lot of those hard things all by myself. When she would have surgery, he would stay home with the other 3 and I would be there, holding her down while she goes under anesthesia and then, crying by myself in the room while she's being operated on, rather than finding a babysitter for the 3 and both of us being in that space together. Part of him, in my opinion, stayed a bit innocent around it all because he was not exposed to everything. which was beautiful in its own right because he loved Lanie and got to enjoy her in a way that didn't hold all the heavy. So part of me didn't want to rob him of that because it was a precious relationship. But part of me also felt very alone and felt like I need a partner who knows all of the hard and heavy. So it's been a balance and a challenge and a work in progress to continue to find the right ways of weaving in and out of this.
I think that the listeners are going to be so blessed to hear you be authentic about the struggles that you've had. And you talked about coming into the balance of needs. And again, typical nuclear families who, are marrying their spouse for the first time and having nuclear children, balance is hard for them, right? Like that is hard. And then you add in all of these additional challenges and conflicts, and you're being triggered in this place where you were like, hey, you know what? My dad died. I watched him die of cancer and I watched my family grieve, and I have done my time, right? And I'm guessing that was probably somewhat subconscious because I know for my story, I was like, hey, I made the right choices. Micah and I lived the right life. We made the, biblical lifestyle decisions, quote unquote. I mean, I'm hearing me guys when I'm being a little sarcastic, but I kind of had a tally sheet where I was like, look, God, I did what you said we're supposed to do. And so now I deserve your favor and blessing, and it's not supposed to be hard anymore. And that was a very subconscious place where I was feeling betrayed by God. And so all of that is like under the surface. And you have said, it really affected your relationship with Tad and your marriage. And how do you balance kind of caretaking his relationship with Lanie and caretaking him? And, should I pull him into the messy hard with me and what her needs are and meeting them? And so I want you guys to hear that if you're having a hard time right now, if you can relate to the struggles in your relationship because of, number one, just challenge, trial, stress, right? Like that in and of itself is hard. In this world, you will have trouble. And if you're listening today and you have a child with special needs and you were wondering how other people look behind closed doors and how they're coping with these stressors, it's hard. And you are not alone. And I'm going to encourage you to get honest with a mentor, with a counselor, and to begin to process this so that you can protect your marriage relationship. Because I haven't even looked it up statistically, but I would imagine that having a child with special needs is very hard on marriage and staying together long term, and just the expectations you'd put on each other, the medical bills, the work. I mean, I feel like I'm going through a checklist. So Laura, this has been so good, and I would really love to continue this with you next week and just get more into your story. Thank you so much for being here today, and I look forward to bringing you back on the next episode, part 2, Laura Lazechko on the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.
Thanks, Rachael.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.